Okay, so now we're going to be hearing from Linda Silas, who is the president of the Canadian Federation of Nurses Unions, which represents 158,000 nurses in nursing unions in 9 provinces and nursing students as well. The Federation provides a national voice with healthcare policymakers in Canada and internationally, and she has focused her efforts in the political arena through dialogue, research, and collaboration. With her roots and early career in Moncton, New Brunswick, Linda has worked hard to position Canada's nursing shortage and improving Medicare through pharmacare at the top of the national agenda. Please join me in welcoming Linda Silas.
Thank you very much. Un gros bonjour à tout le monde. A special hello. Now I'm going to close this because my sheets are going to take a fly. First of all, I am not a researcher. I'm a union goon, proud of it. And it's very hard for me to do anything in 20 minutes. So I have my watch. When I'm female and union activist, it is hard. My second point is for Patty. We're not older nurses. We're just experienced, or as I say, spicy nurses, okay? Now that I have the mic, I have to answer the question. It's not the youngs, it's not the experienced nurses, it's the workplace. It's a pressure cooker out there. I graduated 27 years ago. I had a ball when I started nursing, and now you go in there and you're in a pressure cooker. No wonder there's bullying. But wasn't my question, just when I have a mic. I just have a love affair with a microphone. But I'll try to address the topic going, why can't nursing or healthcare workers in general have the healthiest profession and not to be the sickest profession? It is a sad situation when we talk about healthcare workers, and in every statistics we can find, we're the sickest of the sickest. You've heard from researchers, and as I say, I use their work for try to influence policymakers. But we also know that from the research that's been done, it's not the workers, it's the workplace. And we have to find ways, and I always say to Ottawa, we have to find ways to get out of Ottawa, to get out of Toronto, because I work mainly in Ontario now, but get out of the university sector too and go in the workplace, do applied research, do pilot testing, and change the workplace, put fundings in the workplace for them to make changes. We know that 21,500 employed nurses are absent from work every week due to illness or injury, and that was in 2008. That's the last statistics on this, and it's an increase of 21% in 2005. Because my members will say, Linda, we hear you talk about overtime and absenteeism all the time. Yeah, but the statistics have changed, and they're worse. And we've done a lot of work, so we have to look at it. The absenteeism rate went up 33% just in 3 years. And on the flip side, well, we say, okay, there's the workplace, that's a hard place to work, but also we do over 21 million hours in overtime per year. That increased by 10% since 2005. So, you know, when I hear the argument of part-time work, Karen was right. Oh, yes, I want a part-time work, too, if I can get every other second shift at time and a half or double time for the province of Alberta, for example, and pick and choose them. But when the shortage is not there, or in this economic crisis that we're going through, we need a stable workforce, and that's why we're recommending 70% full-time and with family benefits, of course, and I'll talk about this in a bit. Other than that, we know today we're short of at least 16,000 nurses, and we know studies or projections tell us in a few years it'll be up to 60,000 nurses. But still, in the province of Ontario where we're sitting, they eliminated 1,600 positions just like that in the RN population. Even when the most severe shortage ever recorded shortage done, they're still doing that. So, is that about mental health? Yes and no. Because when we're talking about absenteeism, when we're talking about overtime, when we're talking about shortage, mental health fits, either at the beginning or at the end. You can't say that with those three big factors, your mental health will not be affected one way or another. We know that mental disorders or addictions are entitled under collective agreement to protections, including accommodation by employers. But we still live in nursing, as great and as nice as our profession are, you know, the wings and the halos. You have the province of Manitoba, where the college will publish the name of nurses who have addictions. I'm thinking, duh, like, wake up. It's an illness. Why publish the name? You can publish the registration number if you're scared she or he are not under a recovery program yet and they cannot go to work. But why go through the embarrassment of going through the recovery of an addiction and then the embarrassment with your coworker in your community of publishing the name? But the union finally won that, and now the names are not being published. And honestly, I could spend 20 minutes just on this topic. So I'll flip some pages because I have way too much information. When we look at systemic unrest or instability, Canadian research in this area found that job satisfaction and psychological distress for nurses were significant correlated to job security. Job security is associated to wages, career opportunities, short-term contract. But a lot of what keeps a nurse, or I'd go to a healthcare professional, is the quality of relationship they have in the workplace. The nurse to nurse, the nurse to other part of the team, of course, the nurse to patient, and the nurse to physician. And that is typical the work environment. But today, the workplace are not a place where you could escape. I remember when I started, and being a spicy nurse, I'm proud of it, but you would hear all the time nurses and other healthcare professionals saying, I can't wait to go to work. I just had a big fight with hubby. I can't wait to go to work. Well, now if your personal life is kind of, excuse the language, shitty, you go into the other cesspool of your workplace, and no wonder you end up on long-term disability. It is hard to insure a nurse today on long-term disability because of the high rate of long-term disability. We have the highest rate of long-term disability across. That is scary by itself. So work overload. You must have read Linda Duxbury's work examining the, too many R's for my French tongue, role overload in the network of hospitals in Ottawa. It is clear we're asking way too much. And Jackie and Ben talked about it this morning a bit when they talk about our organizational changes. Over and over and over. I've been in this kind of job since 1984, mostly in New Brunswick, the last 7 years in Ottawa. If I go to another team meeting on organizational change, and the sad thing, it's over and over so much that even when it's a good thing, people don't believe it. There's that pessimist approach, and we have to find a way to change that. Tamara talked about normalizing violence in long-term care. Nursing students tell us, today's workplace is normal for me. And you've heard through Patty, she reminded us of the statistics of the Cho and Lassinger report, where 66% of new nursing graduates are showing signs of burnouts. That's scary. When they say, I'm not staying in this profession, and they just graduated. And they see this as normal. We know better. It is not normal, but they see it as normal, such as people working in long-term care think violence is normal. Duxbury also talks about the whole aspect of the wait time and how the length of patient stay have reduced so much that you have the sicker of the sicker in the workplace. And this multidisciplinary approach, which is great when you have time to do it. But when it's forced down your throat and patients are so sick, you're blamed for the long length of stay of patient. You're blamed for if they don't have their proper education. And this blame game that goes between one profession to the other is only adding, of course, on the mental health aspect. When Karen mentioned Quebec, right now the Nurses Union in Quebec is in negotiation. The number one issue is workload. They haven't been at the table for 5 years. They have probably, I think, the worst working condition in the country, and being one of the richest provinces in the country, they should be ashamed. Charest should be anyway. But their number one issue is workload. What the government's solution is, let's deal with overtime. No, we're not going to stop it. We're just going to stop paying it. So the majority of the shifts in Quebec are 7-hour shifts. So the government, in all their wisdom, has said, you're still going to do overtime, but we're only going to pay it after you've done 12 hours. And they wonder why nurses are not jumping, oh, please sign me up. It is crazy. Remember, again, 21 million hours of overtime. That's over 12,000 full-time jobs are given in overtime in this country. Shift work, another issue. Again, research says the whole sleep behavior that shift workers have is very important on your physical and mental health. But do we do anything? We know that research says that sleep deprivation, we have to take naps. We have to eat proteins, not caffeine, and we need fresh air. So when nurses have food at the nursing desk, when nurses take naps, or when they go outside, because there's only one of them, they get disciplined for it. But the evidence is proving that you need to do that to be able to do the 24/7 shifts that our hospitals and long-term care facility. So there is a problem.